His name is Jonas, and he'll make us sound great. Do you have any questions?
No, sir.
The sponsor of this episode is called No Knob. It's a germ-free device targeted to families. So I will have to say at some point that this episode was brought to you by No Knob.
Cool.
They were well familiar with the story, and actually I'm going to have them send you product if you don't mind.
Yeah, that'd be
it's
great.
all like protection, like mask. If you're at a gas station, you don't want to touch it. This little mitten thing, but it's like really cool, like camouflage and like masculine stuff. So,
cool.
But they said immediately when I reached out to them. So I will have to mention, hey, thanks to our sponsor.
Yeah,
I just want
sure.
to be cheesy.
Yeah, sure. Gotta pay the bills.
Gotta pay the So here we go. Let's get started. American influencer real talk in 5, 4, 3. Hi, this is Josh Skinner, and welcome to this very special episode from Texas of American Influencer Real Talk. This episode is brought to you by our good friends at No Knob. Mr. Gerald Peters, thank you so much for being on our podcast. I am so honored to have you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So it's all my honor.
Well, Mr. Peters, we love your family. We love you and your wife, and of course, we knew your son, Ethan is Supreme, was his handle on Instagram, and he was nominated for a 2019 Teen Beauty Award. What was that like?
Super exciting. I mean, that's the Super Bowl for those guys, for influencers. So just to be nominated was huge. We stayed up.
I'm sorry. No, we can pause. Let's pause.
I'm sorry, just
No. Don't apologize.
All right.
Let me do the intro again.
You sure?
Yeah, let's do it again, and I'll bring your microphone closer. Yeah. Don't apologize, please. How about this? What should I talk about first?
No. I mean, you were on track. I just caught me. I mean, we were just talking about that before.
Yeah. Let's take a second. There's no rush.
All right.
We're good. I'm going to talk about you being a life coach first. Okay. American Influencer Real Talk in 5, 4, 3, 2. Hi, it's Josh Skinner for American Influencer Real Talk. This episode is brought to you by our friends at No Knob. Hey everybody, I am here in Texas with an amazing gentleman. His name is Gerald Peters. He's the father of Ethan is Supreme. I'm blown away by this man. Mr. Peters is a financial life coach. He will inspire you online. He is an entrepreneur, and he has taught me so much in the last 24 hours. I need to quickly invest my money. Mr. Peters, welcome to our show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Honored.
Now, you've been an entrepreneur. Well, first of all, let me just talk about your career in the military. You were in the Army before you started this incredible entrepreneurial career. Can you tell me a little bit about your background and being in part of the military police?
Yeah, so I was raised by a single mom until maybe the age of 8 or 9, in poor trailer parks, moving around a lot, just kind of an environment of like hustling. You just try to get something, and so that carried with me. And then to kind of escape that, my stepfather, he had been in the military, recommended I go to the military. I didn't, at the time, it didn't even occur to me like borrow money to go to college or even to go to college. I don't know how I would pay for it. And so I went to the military, and it was a good move for me. And I was kind of a little left and right in life, and it really helped hone me in as far as discipline and work ethic and that kind of stuff.
You can tell by your Instagram that you have a very you have a strong routine.
Right, I'm all about routine. Every day, repetition. I always say this over and over, repetition is the mother of skill.
Mm.
Doing whatever you do, just a little bit every day, just a little bit,
Now, take me from the transition before you had Ethan.
Mhm.
How did you get out of the military, and what was next for you? Because that's a huge step.
Right, I got out of the military, and right before I got out, I was in a room with a guy. He was a sergeant, and it was a moment. You have those moments in your life where something happens, and it really sticks with you. And I was sitting there, and I was drinking a beer like everybody else, and that's what you do in the Army. And he had a thing on the table, and it was a checking account.
Mm.
And I'm being nosy, and I looked, and it said like $114,000.
Well,
I'd never seen that, and I was like, "Is this real?" And he's like, "Oh," and he took on it. He goes, "Yeah," and he goes, "I go, how do you?" And he goes, "I save it." And I swear, and that sounds stupid now, that I had never. It was like I'm like, "You saved that money? Why?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm gonna buy a franchise, like an oil changing trend." And he had a plan, and I realized I'm 26. I don't have any money, and I have no plan. And it was just a moment, that I had right there. And very quickly I saved like 15 grand. And leaving the Army, I started reading books, like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and mindset books. And that kind of just, when I got out, I was like, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, own a business or do something. I'm not doing where I came from and what we've been doing.
I wanted to bring this up because I'm in this whole crazy world of influencers,
Right.
and I'm seeing these influencers make $10,000 a day, $20,000
Mhm.
a post, but then they're spending like $32,000 on rent, and I'm like, whoa!
Right.
And you were in this whole influencer world. What do you think is the biggest mistake that these influencers are making with finances?
I think it seems like it's a world where you're kind of in the moment.
Mm.
And there's a lot of people around you that are either telling you how awesome you are or how bad you are. There's not a lot of just average everyday wisdom like, hey, you need to be saving, like you made 50,000 this month, you only need 10,000 to have a good life.
That sounds like so much money.
Right, it seems like so much. And I met, and I know you have too, were through Ethan, my son, and influencers that were 16 years old, and they made $600,000 this year on YouTube, and they live with their parents. And I'm thinking, if that's me with what I know and what I teach, you should have like, I don't know, $2-3 million right now, and
Wow.
they have 200,000.
So what do you think is the biggest lesson that they're not learning?
I think, and this happens a lot. And when I worked in a prison for a while, and there would be guys in prison who were drug dealers, and a lot of them are very entrepreneur. They're not dumb people, and they would talk to me like they made $3,000-4,000 a day for years, and they have nothing.
Wow.
And so I've kind of come to believe that easier the money comes, sometimes the value's not there. And I had this with Ethan, like when you get paid $10,000 to take a picture, your concept of money is different than a kid that makes $12 working for an hour. I mean, it's an absurd comparison. And so it's hard for a kid that young when you're given so much to put value on it, because the value is so stretched,
I'm going to put your microphone just a little bit closer.
Sorry.
No, you're not. You're perfect.
Okay.
There you go. I can't imagine making that much money.
I can't tell.
That money is crazy.
It is. I mean, I know a 16, and I won't say her name.
Yeah.
She's a wonderful person, YouTuber, and makes almost $1 million a year, and she's 16. And I always try. I mean, maybe it's not my place, but I would meet these people through Ethan, and I would take them aside, and say, hey, I'm gonna talk to you, and you may never do anything of what I'm fixing to tell you, or you'll put me on your Christmas list in 5 years. And I would just dump on them, and tell them what they should be doing.
Give me top 3 things that the influencers who are listening to the show making a ton of money, what should they be doing?
I always try to tell them, like, try to do an entire month where you don't spend any money. I mean, you go buy your coffee. I'm not talking about dumb stuff. When you make $10,000, you can buy a coffee, right? You hear, like, normal working people with a latte factor. There was a famous book about if you save a coffee a day, you can. When you're making huge sums of money, it doesn't matter if you spend $60 on dinner. If you can save 50% of your income, you're guaranteed to be rich. It's guaranteed in like 2 or 3 years. So if you make an absurd amount of money and you can live on half, so I always try to tell them, try to go a month and spend no money and just see what's there. And this is how I got Ethan to get really into money. put it in your checking account and then just look at it. And calculate your net worth every single day. This is a weird concept. I do this every day. Every day I add up everything I own. Now it's in my mind, so it's fast. Like I own 15 houses. I know the basic value. I round up, keep it simple. And so I'm doing this every day, all the time. With all my stocks, I look in and see the balance. I check my checking. I know I'm thinking. So I'm walking around with this number in my head, and I want to be richer every day. So even if I spent money today, when I go to bed tonight, I want to be a little richer than I was yesterday. And if you can do that every day while spending money, then you're good. I mean,
well, what was so amazing about Ethan's story is that he was like 13 years old and he
Right.
sold a meme account for like $25,000.
right.
How did you teach him to do that? That's huge.
Yeah, and I wish I could take credit for like the things he would do. I mean, I guess indirectly, they say kids catch more than they. I forget that phrase, but from your example. And so, I work a lot. If you follow my Instagram, you'll see I work every day. It drives my family crazy. I work on vacation. Now I'm limited. I'll do 3 hours. I say, but listen, you got to give me 3 hours, and then I'll give you the other 21.
And you really love what you do.
And I
so
love
it's
what
a
I
passion.
do, so I don't feel like I'm working. Matter of fact, when you don't let me work, I feel miserable. I don't want to just sit on a beach. I like a beach, but then I'm looking at how do we buy the beach? Where could we add value here? Could we write a book? It's just my mindset. And Ethan, I think, caught that early on. And I would praise him for those kind of things. Like he got an account and he got it to 5,000 followers. And I was like, oh, wow, that's awesome. And then I'd be like, well, I mean, it seems like 100,000 would be a lot easier. Like, you know, we would just have these conversations, and he got it to 100,000. He posts funny memes. Well, one day he gets PayPal $20. He didn't have a PayPal account, so he comes to me and goes, "Dad, I need a PayPal account." I'm like, "Why?" He's 10. I don't know, like 10 years old, 9 years old. This kid wants me to repost him. I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And then of course I immediately look at it, and I was like, "Yeah," like I just clicked. I was like, "Heck yeah, man."
Entrepreneur.
Yeah, so here's my PayPal, tell them to send it to us. But at 7, I gave Ethan an iPhone, and all of my family was mortified. Like, what are you doing? Because, at his school, everybody didn't have that. He was the only kid that had an iPhone. I knew, being an entrepreneur, the future is out there. And all of the money, I always just said this phrase, all the money that you want, you, me, everyone, church, businesses, all the money we want is in other people's pockets.
Ooh, I just went to bank church.
Right there.
Amen.
Right?
Yeah.
So we got to communicate with those people. And the more people you can communicate with, or I call it pushing your intent into the universe, the more you can push what it is you do, your art, your music, your whatever, you're a car salesman, you're a podcaster, you're pushing that intent. The more people who can touch that, then obviously the more money you can make. Or the more value you can give to get money, right?
I just thought it was insane that he was 12, 13 years old making $25,000.
Right, got paid, boom, big payout. And I remember saying, why are you selling this, dude? Because he's getting PayPal every day.
Oh, wow.
$50, $100, $20, $50 for people wanting to do shout outs. And he's like, yeah, I don't think this is going to keep working. And he was just starting to do the makeup, and he hadn't done the makeup. And then in that same time frame, I don't remember if it was before or after, he got caught stealing his mother's makeup.
Tell me about
It's
that.
weird to say that now
Yeah.
because it's so normal in my life for guys to wear makeup, which I know maybe in other guys' lives that's not normal. And I didn't know how to, because I'm like a man's man. I've always thought, military, like I used to hunt and fish and all that kind of stuff, and I work and I'm dirty all the time, and I've just kind of taken pride in that kind of stuff. And my son was not like that from an early age. I'm like, he's a techie. That's the way they are. And then around, like you said, around 10, 11, I'm realizing he's a little different than other kids. Other kids aren't trying to make 25 grand in 6th grade. Like, they're not thinking like that. They're not trying to sell their first, quote, business, like, in a way, right?
Yeah.
Like, who's trying to IPO or whatever, you use like Silicon Valley terms, like who's trying to flip a business at 6th grade?
Well, I know there's people that don't even make 25 in a year.
In a year.
And he's, 12 and 13. It's fantastic.
And he, he pulled that off, and so boom. And I'm like, well, what are you going to do? Well, I didn't know. At this time, he's deep diving Jeffree Star, all the Manny,
MUA.
Yeah, MUA. And a lot of these guys, he's deep diving their content, and he's being pulled into that world. And then it's about this time he comes out and tells me he's gay. and I already know, and I could tell. And
And how were you with that?
to be honest, his mom was harder. She was, and it's not because she was against being gay or anything like that. It's just as a parent in your mind, you start formulating these futures that you see, grandkids, and and of course you can do that when but it just wasn't what was pictured at first, and I just immediately and that probably a fault of mine that I was just always whatever 100% whatever Ethan wanted to do, and I had a simple rule in life because this was my dad's rule, my stepdad. If you don't hurt anyone, and you don't get in trouble, I really don't care what you do. Not as long as you're not harming yourself. Let me say that. Like, I'm not gonna walk around going, just nitpicking a person because I don't like your pants are hanging down or I don't like your hair color. Like he could dye his hair purple, walk in a room, he's not even gonna get a second look from me. I don't care. If he's happy with purple hair, I'm happy he's happy.
What a great father.
Right, and a lot of parents weren't that way. They would be freaked out. And wearing lipstick made him happy. I'm like, do you really want to do this? Okay, could you just not do it when we're at Walmart, please? Because of our town, it's such a small town. And then I said, and then I came to the conclusion, even then, dude, if you want to do that, that's fine. If anybody says anything, I'll punch them. And that was our agreement. We had bottles thrown. I mean, I'm fast forwarding, but we'd go to concerts and we've had bottles thrown at us, and I've almost gotten in fights because I would take him to music that I like. I grew up with heavy metal, and we shared a love for extreme thrash, punk, heavy metal music. So you can see some of that in his pictures. But Ethan was a huge lover of rap and R&B, and just that kind of music. But he still liked that because as a little kid at 9 years old, I'm having him at Slayer concerts,
Wow.
Metallica, and I'd made a little money in life, so I'm kind of living vicariously. And we're front row. Like, Ethan never went to a concert and it wasn't front row. We spent probably $20,000 a year on concerts.
Wow.
Which sounds absurd, but he made a lot of money. I make a decent amount of money, and that was our thing. He didn't play football. He didn't play basketball. He didn't go to, drill team. Our thing for me and him was music. We would go all out and do like BIP, meet the artists. So we've met a lot of and that was one of our bonds that was super cool. And I'd see other parents, and they're like, we'll sit in the very back, $40 seats, and I have to take my kid. Ethan's 12 for his birthday. He's in love with Arctic Monkeys.
Wow.
Remember that band?
Yeah.
He's 12 and he's just starting to get goofy with his hair, and he'd flip that side. So for his birthday, I get his VIP meet and greets in front row, and I don't tell him. Well, the concert's today. I'm like, hey man, you ready to go? And he's doing school, and I went and pulled him out. I said, well, we got something we got to go do, man. You need to go dress cool. I don't know what And he's like, where are we going? As we get there, of course, he sees it. And we're front row. We meet them. And, those are the moments, like, that's worth every penny, right?
100%.
Right.
Now, in social media, it's easy to see one picture and assume that person is that moment for the rest of their life. So what do you think is the biggest misconception of being a parent of a social media star?
The hardest part, and we would have to explain, I'm guessing we'll talk about at school, or even to grandparents or friends of our family, it's art. And artists, the purpose of being an artist, in my opinion, part of the purpose is to push the boundaries of social acceptance. And we've gotten this weird place in society where people who push the boundaries or go too far, they want to bring them in or destroy them or hurt them, and yet it's the artists that push it. In the civil rights eras, it's people that are doing things that are socially unacceptable for that period that allow today. And it's always that way. There's people that are progressive, they're going to push the limit, and that's how we all move forward, right? And so I felt like Ethan was doing that. Like, he was in the forefront. I think 50 years from now, men wearing makeup won't even be a second thought. It's just the way life will be. Like, everyone wears makeup, makes you look better. Where I grew up, that's not the case. So by him being an artist, he got me to be totally acceptable with, one, gay culture, because I was just never around it. Now it's just commonplace. I have lots of gay friends. And if you met me, you probably think I wouldn't be. I've helped lots of gay teenage boys that were trying to come out, how to talk to their parents or talk to their parents for them. Like all of that came from his art being pushed, you know. And other people, instead of responding the way I did, would be either violent or want to cancel him or, you know, whatever. And it's unfortunate. Like artists need to be allowed room, comedians, to insult you. They need to be able to insult your things you hold the dearest. I believe.
Yeah, cancel culture is a little extreme.
It is.
Yeah, there's no gray.
No
they,
gray.
They just jump on a bandwagon, and
Mhm.
it's
And it's okay to insult people. Because what you find insulting, I don't find insulting. And the Army used to say one man's freedom fighter is another person's rebel. I mean, it just depends on your point of view. And so we have to do that. We have to push each other, and sometimes it's okay to be insulted. Maybe sit on it. Why is this insulting me? Why am I so bothered by a picture? Why would a picture cause this reaction for me?
Let's talk about his school.
Mhm.
So he's going to a Christian excuse me, one more time. Let's talk about his school. He's going to a Christian school, private school here in Texas,
Right.
and they were upset about his postings, but not his actual character at school.
Right, he was a great student. Ethan never was in trouble with police authorities of any kind. Anyone that was ever in charge of anything that met Ethan loved him. Now he was a character, and he'd figure out the boundaries he's allowed to play in. But he was always super polite. I mean, all my life, because even when you're with your own kid, they're not as nice as and everyone thinks their kids are amazing. And I'm a realist. I'm like, no, you can, even though he's your kid, it doesn't mean he's necessarily amazing. He could just be average, you know. I try to be real, and everyone would just come at me like, he's so well behaved. Like when he spends the night at our house, we love it because the other kids that spend it at our house are nightmares. Your kid is polite, and he picked up a dish. I'm like, my kid? Like, because he won't pick a dish up at my house. He's picking up dishes at your house. And anywhere he would go, if he would meet the people that ran the businesses or the the companies, the makeup companies, they would send us notes or text his mother and say, wow, you did a really good job with your kid. And I'd always be like, I didn't do anything. Like, all I did was just let him be. And just every once in a while go, hey, don't do that. You're gonna, just general, just constant. And I would just try to talk to him philosophically. But at the school, I had him there because of my background. I was raised Christian. I'm not a big fan of the public schools. I feel like there's a lot of bullying, a lot of violence, a lot of drugs, blah, blah, blah. And I just wanted him free from that environment, just trying to be a parent, try to protect your kids. Put him in there, and it almost got to be the opposite. Like, they had their